Hello, so welcome back, guys. So in this tutorial, we'll be creating a simple CRUD API by making use of Node.js, Express, MySQL for the database, and then Sequelize for the ORM. So we'll just be building a simple CRUD API. So let's start. So I've opened my VS Code right now, and then let me open my terminal. So I want to open my terminal, and then I want us to initiate the project we'll be making use of. So in my case right now, I'll be making use of npm. So I'll just say right now npm init and then y. So this one is going to create the global package.json file for us. So right now it's going to create it, and then so before it's finished creating it, okay, it has finished creating it. So the packages, this is it now, and then we want to convert this to let's just say server.js. Our entry point will be server.js, and then we want to make use of type to be what? The type to be modules. So this is what we want to do right now. So the next thing we want to do right now is that we want to install the packages we are going to be making use of. So we are just going to be making use of 3 packages. We're going to be making use of npm install express. Express is the Node.js web framework that we're going to be making use of, and then MySQL 2, and then also Sequelize. So Sequelize is like ORM, so database ORM. So we'll be making use of Sequelize to connect to the database, just like making use of Mongoose to connect to MongoDB. But in this case, you are making use of ORM, which is what? Sequelize. So let's install the packages. So now that the packages is installing, the next thing we want to do is I want to create our entry file, which is server.js. So the server.js is what we want to be creating. So let's now create another, let's open another terminal. So in this another terminal now, I'll be making use of my command line to create the folder we'll be making use of by making use of mkdir what command. So we're making use of that to create our folder. So once this one load finish, so now it has opened. So let's just say mkdir, we want to create controller, and then also we want to create mkdir, we want to create model, right? And then we also want to create mkdir, we want to create utils folder, and then lastly mkdir, we want to create route folder. So these are the things we want to create. So right, so can you see, guys, now we've created the folder right here by just making use of a simple command line. So let's check this out as well. So this one is still loading, and then before it load finish, let's just write some 1 or 2 code. So the first thing we want to write in our entry file is that we want to import express from express. The next thing is that we want to let's instantiate it by saying constant and then server equals to express. So let's call it right here. So the next thing we want to do is I want to create our port. So let's say const port. To the port we are going to be making use of 8800. So let's now create our let's create our port. So let's say server dot listen. So it's going to take into parameters. The parameter is the port, which is this one, port, the first one, and then the second one is the callback function. Alright, so to console.log to the console, maybe it has been what, maybe it is successful. So let's say console.log, and then now say port is listening on, so let's just call the port a $sign and then call it braces, and then let's now say port. So right now, this is what we are having right now. So this is yet to load. So once it loads, then, but also while we are waiting for the loading, let's just write one or two things. So the next thing we want to talk about is that we want to connect to the database, right? And then that is, we are going to go to under utils and then create a file called database.js. Database.js. So in this case now, we want to import Sequelize from Sequelize. So that's what we want to do right now. So let's now create what? Let's try to connect to the database. So you can now see const Sequelize and then say new Sequelize. Let's call it new Sequelize. So in this case right now, the name of the database, we want to make use of Node Sequelize, Node.js, and then the username is root, and then my own password right here is 207, and then so we also want to call this, so the host is localhost, you can see 127.0.0.1, and then the dialect we'll be using is MySQL, and then the port is 3306, and then to login, let's see, login is false. So right, so in this case scenario right now, let's try to connect to the database by making use of Sequelize. So we can just say let's try to connect. So let's create a function for that as well. So we are going to be creating a name function. So const express export const, and then let's now say connect db, because to making use of async, right? Async await, and then we say, what do you want to say? Let's choose a try and catch block right here. So in this try right here, you can just say await the Sequelize that we created earlier on, await Sequelize dot authenticate. So if that has been authenticated, what do you want to say? You want to say console.log connection to the database has been successful. And then if there is an error, what do you want to do? You want to console.log error.stack. I don't know why this one has not been installed since, but let's do what, let's close it, and then let's let's close the port, and then let's try it elsewhere. So let's just close this port. Let's close this port right now, and then let's open another new terminal. So this is new terminal I'm going to be making use of. Let's just say npm install express MySQL 2 and then Sequelize. So let's see what this one is going to give us right now. So right now, this has finished installing. The installation has been completed, and then this is what we are seeing right now: Express MySQL 2 and then Sequelize. So what have we done so far? We've what we've tried to make a connection to where to the database by writing this, by calling the Sequelize, and then created a new instance of it, and then we pass in the required parameters, and then this is helping us to check maybe it has been connected or not. So the next thing we want to do right now is that what's the next thing we want to do right now is we want to go to our SQL database. We want to go to our SQL my workbench, and then these are the start, and then let's now create a database called what, because this is the name of what we named it. We named it what? We named it Nodejs. So let's go to my workbench, MySQL workbench, and then create a database called that. So let's just say create database called what? Nodejs, right? And then let's run this. So database has been created. So for us to be able to see it, let's just do what? Let's write the command called show database. So can you see these are the list of database we have right now, and then this is the one we just created. Can you see? Node.SQL. So let's go back to our code, and then let's try to run it. So now we've been able to create the database we are going to be making use of, which is what? Node.SQL. So the next thing we want to go to right now is to come down to our server, right? Is to come down to our server file, and then let's import this to our application we'll be making use of right now. So the first thing we want to import right now is that we want to also import the SQL. But let's go to, have we exported it? Let's see if we have exported it right now. So in this case right now, this is SQL. I don't think we've exported it, so let's export it. So I'm going to say export default Sequelize, right? So we've exported this right now, and then also we've exported this as a named export. This one is a default export. So the next thing we want to do right now is to come over to our server file, and then let's import what we just created. So the first one we created is Sequelize. So we are importing this as well. So we also want to import the connect db, right? So we want to make use of this to be able to connect to our database successfully. So the next thing we are going to do right now is that let's create a function called initialize app. So initialize initialize DB connection, and let's sync the model we'll be making use of. So let's say const initialize app. So but let's just name this small letter. In this case, it's also going to be an async function, and then let's see, it's not taking any parameter. So we want to, so let's write a try and catch block. So in the try and catch block right now, I want to do, let's await our connect DB. Alright, let's await our connect DB, and then the next thing we want to also do is that we want to await Sequelize .sync. Right, and then let's just pass in this parameter, that is false to the what? False. So after that has been what? If this is successful, we're going to now say console.log. What do you want to say? Database sync. And then if there is any error, right? So if there is any error, what do you want to do? You want to console.log the error. You just say console.log error.stack, and then let's write this process.exit, and then let's say 1. That is, anytime there is a critical error in the database, it's going to exit itself. So this is what we've written so far. So let's now call this, let's call this initialize app. So initialize app. So let's call it. So the next thing we want to do right now is that let's install Nodejs. So we're going to say npm install Nodejs as a dev dependency. We want to install Nodejs as a dev dependency. So what Nodejs is going to do, Nodejs is going to help us to look if there's any changes in the file or in the application, then it will restart the application anytime there is a change in it without you trying to press save. So the next thing we want to do right now is to come over to our script here, and then let's write some script to this place. Let's write dev. The dev will be what? Nodemon, and then server.js, and then for the start we want to write node server.js. So Nodemon has completed its installation, and then this is what you are seeing right now. So the next thing we want to do right now is to come over to our server right here, and then check what else you are doing. So for now, let's now start the server. Let's run the application by saying npm run dev, and then let's see what we have. So npm run dev right now is saying that we are encountering this error. So let's come over to this place, and then let's put .js right here. .js, and then let's see what we are having. So right now the port is listing on 800. Connection to the database has been successful, and then the database has been synced. So right now our database is now working correctly. So the next thing we want to do is just let's just create an home route. Let's just say server.get. In this server.get, we're going to say this is the home route, and then we're going to say rec response, and then what next we want to do, let's just say return rest.status, and then let's just say 200. Let's say JSON, and let's say message home route it. So this is the message you want to get anytime we hit the home route. So let's go to our Postman. We'll be making use of Postman to test this. So let's go to our Postman, right? And then let's test the home route. So don't forget the port you are working on is 8800. So in this case scenario now, I want to say localhost. So let me just do this localhost, and then let's check this out. So can you see now, right now we've been able to hit our home route 8. So this is what we're having right now. That means everything is working successfully. So the next thing we want to do right now is that we want to create our model. So the model won't have much information, right? So let's just say model. In this model, we want to create the user.model.js. That's what we want to create. So in this case scenario right now, so how do we want the model to be structured? We just want to make use of the username and then the email, and then also the ID. So let's import Sequelize from Sequelize. Also, the next thing we want to import is what? Let's import Sequelize. That one is from the database, the utils /database/js. So this is what we want to make it of. So and then let's now create the model for the user. So first create the model, so that will be const user equals to, and then let's now say Sequelize dot defined. So we want to define, and then let's just pass the name of the table right here. Let's just say users, right? And then let's pass in the information we want the user to have. So the user is going to have an ID. So the ID will be what? The type of what? Sequelize dot integer. Sequelize dot integer. So auto increments, that is anytime a user is being created, we want an auto increment from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Auto increment is what? True. Allow no, that is, we want to say false. We don't want this one to be what? To be empty anytime the user is creating his or her profile. And then the next thing right now, we want to see this one is also our primary key. So this one will be our primary key, and then that's true. So the next information we want to create about the user is called the username. The username. So in this case scenario right now, that will be what? Sequelize. The type is Sequelize dot string, and also the email also we're having is also what? Sequelize dot string as well. So this is the information of the user we'll be creating, right? So we now want to export the what? The information of the user. So let's say export default user. So you exported this user right now, you've exported the model. It's just like the model. So the next thing we want to talk about right now is that we want to go and create a controller, right? Let's create a controller. So the controller will be user.controller.js. So this is the controller and then that is going to what? That will be the logic that we're going to be using for So we want to create the controller file. So this is going to serve as a logic, right? So the first thing we want to do is that we want to import the user model. So we import user from the models slash, what is it, user. Always remember to put JS. So let's create this. So we can just say const user controller, and then let's do this and just say get all user. We want to get all the users, right? So creating an async function, request, response, right? Okay, now see that. Let's now create a try and catch block. So try and catch block, and then we're going to be saying const users. So that will be what? Let's await this because the promise dot. So there's a method in Sequelize called find all. So it will find all the what? All the users in the database. I'm going to, let's now say return rest.status. Yes, let's just say 201 200. Let's make it of 200 slash listen. Let's now say the length is what? Users dot length, and then we can now return the data, which is what? Users. So let's now say export default what? User controller. So let's say export user controller. In this case scenario also, let's also say console.log if there's an error, and now say error.stack, right? So this is what we want to do right now. So right now, let's now go to our route. Let's create a route for this as well. Let's say user.route.js. So in this case scenario now, what we'll be making use of first is we'll be making use of Express. Let's import Express from Express. Import Express from Express, right? So let's also import the user controller. So let's instantiate the Express. So we want to call the router on this, right? So the next thing we want to do right now is that, so let's say router.get, that is, we want to get all the users, and then in this case slash users, and then let's just say user controller dot what? Just a minute. Okay, user controller dot get users. So let's see what we're having down from here. Get all users. So let's just copy this and then take So let's now say export default router. So we are exporting the router what we just created right now. So just want not to make this server.js very cumbersome with a lot of code. We are going to be creating an index file here. So we can just say index.js, right? In our index.js, we are going to also import Express from Express, and then we are going to be importing what? We are going to be importing what we just created, that is import user route from user route.js, right? You can just say const and then router equals to, let's also instantiate this with making use of express router, and then you can also router dot use, right? So you can just say API v1, and then this one will be user route. Then we can now say export default router. So export default router. So the next thing we have to do now is now come over to our server.js file, and then let's now import this as well. So we can just say import route from, and just say import route from, where are we bringing it from? So we are bringing it from route slash what, index.js. As well, this error is string error. I'm still going to fix that. So let's see where it is coming from. Same modules not found. Let's do something. Let's say user controller. Let's see if this auto import is working. Did you export it here? Yeah, we exported it here, right? So let's come over to this place, and then let's see what we are having. Let's see if our auto import is working. Our auto import is working, right? So let's check the spelling of what we are doing, so it might not be maybe the spellings is. So let's save it, and then let's see what we have. Yes, it's a modules not found. Where is the modules? So let's come over to this server.js file. So any importation we'll be making use of, we're going to be making use of dot. I'm going to be naming the extension. Right here, you've named the extension, right? You've named the extension. Also this, you've named the extension. But I just believe this thing is coming from the user controller. Still the same thing. Now let's see. So it has been connected. I believe it is the importation that is doing that is not importing very well. So maybe there is a misspell. Maybe I misspelled a word there. So the next thing we want to do right now is now test our what? Our route. Let's test our API. So in the case of this now, we are having /user, right? And then this is our index file. We are having router.use. So let's go back to our Postman and then test it. So we can now see what do we want to get. We are getting /API/. Let's see if that will work. So right now it's telling us that it is not found. So let's go and check what is wrong. API/v1, right? And then this is the user. So let's check this again. So let's wait for it to connect finish and then let's check it once again. So let's test it, I guess. So it's saying cannot get API v1/user. So since we've imported this route right here, so let's make use of it by just saying let's create routes here and let's now say server.use and then let's say routes. So let's wait for this to finish and then let's see what we got. So can you see right now the length is 0 and then the data is what? That simply means we've not created any user right now. So the next thing we want to do right now is what? Is to go back to our controller and then start creating some other logic on that. So the next logic we want to create, the next thing we want to create is we want to be able to get a what? A single user. So alright, let's try to get a single user. So we can just say get a user. So that's also an async function. Request, response, and what next? We can just say try and catch. Let's make use of our try and catch block, and then we'll be saying that what? Const user ID. That is, in this case right now, we want to be able to get a single user, and we are going to be making use of what we call request.params and then user ID. But in this case right now, we are structuring the user ID from this. So let's now see const user equals to await user.find by pk. This is also a model in what? In MySQL, in Sequelize rather. So user ID, right? So if no user is found, what do you want to say? I want to say return res.status and say 200 JSON, and I say user not not found, right? And then if the user is found, we want to return the user information, res.status, and then what next? I can just say 201.json, and then we can just say message, and then let's just say user data, and then let's now say data equals to what? The user, right? If there is an error in this case scenario, we want to console.log the error. So I'm going to say error.stack. So in this case scenario now, let's now create the route for this as well. So first we'll be able to create the route for this. Let's go to the user.route, and then once we get to the user.route, this also is also a get info. This is also a get what? It's also a get API. So get, right, and there's just a user. And if you want to get a single user, get single user, and then the user what? The user ID. So you can just change this to get a user, right? So let's now move down. Then this one, there has to be a column in it. So the column simply means that anything we can pass in here as a parameter. So that's also the database has been what? Has been synchronized. And then let's now go to this API route, and then route single user, and then what? Let's just say API. Let's say single user /1. So in this case scenario now, no user is found because we've not created any user. So the next thing we want to do right now is to create a user, and then we'll now come back to this, and then let's now see what we got. So for us to be able to create a user, let's go to our controller also, and then let's now say create a user. So for us to be able to create a user, it's also an async to request response, and then we can now say let's call our try and catch block here as well. So we want to create our try and catch block here as well, so we can just say const, what do you want to const? But before that, let's do this. Let's say const username and then email. So that will be coming from direct.body, right? It is coming by the structuring from the respawn.body. So you can now see const users with, and now see user.create, and then also in this case we can just say username and then email, right? If there is no user, if no user is found, if you can't create user, you can just say return rest status, and then say 200, and then say JSON, then say JSON message user not created, and then so you can just say return rest status, you can just say 200 or 201 JSON, and then see message user created, and then let's now see data, right? So data will be what? Will be user. So the next thing we want to talk about is, what do you want to talk about? Say console.log. You want to error.stack if there is an error. So let's now go to the route as well in this case scenario, and then for us to create the route, that will be what? That will be a post, what? A post. It will be a post method. So post, and then let's just do this one to be what? Create user. So in this case scenario, that will be what? Create user. So let's go back to our API, to our Postman, and then let's now say create user and create user. So don't let us forget, we are going to be changing this one to a post. We want to change this one to a post, and then in the body right here, we are going to change this one to raw, this one to JSON, and then create the say name, which is what the username. Don't forget the key value of what you are using in your model. So we are making use of Taiwo Adefowokbe, and then the email is what taiwo@gmail.com. So let's now click on send. So right now there's an error, so let's check where the error is coming from. Erect.body, it is not defined. Let's check the model. The model is username, right? So right now we are getting cannot do structure username of rec.body as it's undefined. So but what is happening right now is that let's go to our server.js file, and then let's now create a middleware for our words, for the JSON that we're going to be passing. So for us to be able to do that, let's just create an Express middleware. So middleware. So that will be what server.use. So let's just say express.json, and then let's call it right now. So let's do what? Let's save the changes. Saves that is changing right now. So once the service has been once the changes has been saved, so let's check our Postman. So let's send this, and then let's see what we get. So right now we've been able to create this successfully. Can you guys see? User created, and then we've been able to do this successfully. So the next thing we want to do right now is that we want to update the user, right? That's the next thing on the line. Once we should be able to update this user, and then if we should now go to our database right now. So let's show the database. Let's run the database. So this is the database we are having Node.SQL. So let's say use Node.SQL. So let's run that as well. So we are using that. So let's now say show tables, right? So we want to show the tables. So this is the table. The table is what user. So the next thing you can now say select all from users. So let's run this as well. Can you see now? So this has to tell us that the user has been created successfully into the database, right? So let's move on. Let's move on to what we are doing right now. So we've created that successfully. So we want to update the user. So for us to be able to update the user, let's create the controller for that. So the controller for this will be what? Update a user. So we're having async, we're having rec, we're having response, we're having this. So let's do what? Let's create a try and catch block. So for us to be able to update a user, I must be able to get the ID of that user. So let's get the ID from the param. So user ID, and then let's destructure it. So I'm going to say rec.body, rec.params. So we are destructuring it from the params. So the next thing we want to do, we want to get the username and then the email. So So in this case, and then we are going to be assigning it to another name. So you can just say username, and then you can just rename it to updated name, and then email to what? Updated email. So that is coming from the what? From the rec.body. So this username is coming from the rec.body, and then this email is coming from the rec.body as well. So we are now renaming it to updated name and then updated email. So the next thing you want to do is that I want to get the user dot await user dot find by pk by what? The user id. This user id right now. So if the user is not found, what do we want to do? We want to return an information. If the user is not found, what do you want to do? I want to say return res.status, right? Return res.status 404, and then say JSON, and then say message user not found. That's what we want to do. But if the user is found, what else do we want to do? We want to update the user. How do we update the user? So that will be what? The user dot username. So that will be the what? It will be equals to the updated name, and then also user dot email. That will be equals to updated email, right? So the next thing we want to do right now is let's just say const updated user, and then we can now say await user dot save. So we are saving this, we are saving into the database. We can now say return res dot status, and then this one is 201, and then let's say JSON, and then say message user updated, and then let's now say the data is what? Updated user, right? So if there is what? If there is an error, we can just say console.log error.stack, right? So the next thing we want to do right now is now go to our route right here. So in this case, I'm going to be making use of the put method. So router.put, and then let's just say update user, and then don't forget we're going to be passing our dynamic user id. This user id right here must be the same thing with what is in this place, from what you are destructuring from the body. Are you getting it? So in this case right now, this one will be what? Update user. That will be update the user. So let's now go to our Postman. So in this case scenario now, we are having update user, and then the user we want to update right now is 1. That is, this one is the request.param. This is what's coming from the param. This is what is coming from the param, which is what? 1. So the next thing we want to do right now is let's just say this one to Ade Fuwope Victoria, and then let's change this one to victoria@gmail.com, right? So let's send it. So in this case, this one will be what? It will be a put method. So don't forget that as well. So let's click on the send. So you can see now the user has been updated to what? Ade Fuwope Victoria. So let's now go back to our SQL, my workbench, and then let's say select all from user. Let's rerun this. So you can see right now it has been changed to Ade Fuwope Victoria, and then also the email has also been changed. This is when we created it, and then this is when it has been what? Updated right now. So that is that on that. The next thing we want to do right now is to come over to the user router as well let's what? Let's create the last one, which is the what? Delete operation. So for us to be able to create the delete operation, so we're just going to say delete a user. So as well, to that one, we're going to follow the same pattern. That is, we're going to get the parameter of the user we want to delete. So res rec and then response, and then let's just create a try and catch block right here. I'm trying to create a try and catch block. So in this case scenario, we are going to be getting the user ID, and then that is what? That is request.params, right? So next thing also want to say const users, and then let's find the user if the user is there or not. So let's say with user.find by pk, which is the what? The user ID that we are getting from the params. So if the user is not there, if the user is not found, we can just simply say return res.status. You can just say 404, just say JSON, and then we say the message will be user not found. So we are saying if the user is not there, so we just want to return, and then so but if the user is there, we want to delete it. How do we delete? We say await user.destroy, and then what do you want to destroy? You want to say where what? Where ID is equals to the user ID. That is what we want to destroy. Alright. So lastly, let's now say console.log error.stack. That is, if there is an error, we want it to be error.stack. Right, and this is what we did. We get the parameters of what we want to delete, and then we find it. If it's not in the database, we return that it is not in the database, and if it is in the database, we delete it. So let's go to our Postman to test this as well. So for example, now in our database right now, we are not having what? We are not having 2 as a parameter, right? We are not having 2 as an ID. We are only having 1. So if we should go to our Postman right here, and then we now see, okay, let's go back to our code, and then let's go back to our route, and then create a what? An endpoint for that as well. So the endpoint we want to create for this is delete. We are making the delete method, and then this one will be what? Delete user. This is the user ID, and then this one is what? Delete a user. So this is what we want to do right now. So let's wait for this to change, for this to save. So once it's saved, we are going to, so it has been saved, and then let's go back to our Postman. So in the case of the Postman, let's change the method right here to delete. So once we change the method right here to delete, and then the URL also will be delete, right? In this case scenario now, we should put 2, and then hit the route. We are going to get user not found. That is, 2 is not in the database. But if you see 1, right? 1 is in the database, and then let's see what we get. So it seems this one is delaying. Okay. Why is it delaying? I don't know why it's delaying. Let's check what we've written so far. Let's check our code. Oh, sorry. We did not return anything. So say return res.status, and then let's just say 201, 200 rather, and say .json, and say JSON, and say message is what? User deleted. So this is what we are returning. But if we should go back to our code right here now, to our SQL, and then let's run this code. Can you see? We don't have anything, it has been deleted. But because we did not return a response, so the next thing for us to do right now is just like, let's first create a user. So we want to create a user right now. So let's name this one post, right? And then we're not going to delete it as well. So we are naming this one post. So the user has been created. Can you see? It has created a what? A user of ID2, username at the full Victoria, email victoria@gmail.com. Right? So we want to delete this as well. So let's check our what? Let's check our database here and then let's run it. You can see that it is 0, it is 0, it is what? 2. We are having a default Victoria and then this. So let's now delete this. So by saying delete, and then the word, the user ID is what? 2. Don't forget. So I'm going to say 2, right? Let's send it right now. Let's click on send. We've clicked on send, and then we're having cannot post. Sorry, it is delete. The method is delete, right? So can you see? User has been deleted. So guys, right now we've come to the end of this tutorial, and then let me just make a brief recap on what we did. So this is what we did. We created a CRUD API by making use of Sequelize, and then we also make use of MySQL as a database. Also, we also make use of Nodejs for the what? For the application, and then we make use of Express for the web framework, so that it's going to make our work much more faster and easier. And then we also call on some method provided from Sequelize. We created the database first, and after we created the database, we created the route, we created the controller, and then we bring in everything to where? To the entry file, which is what? The server.js. So guys, if you wait till this, thanks for waiting up to now. Thanks so much. I'll meet you in our next session. Bye bye.